In our news bulletin for this evening, government has removed the fuel subsidy for fishermen. The new police go through training on ethical conduct. A new $1 million project for sustainable management of ocean resources was launched yesterday. Changes for New Zealand passports expand services for online applications and extensions for renewals to 10 years. Government has removed the fuel subsidy for boat fishermen that allowed them to purchase fuel at a cheaper price. The fuel subsidy was put in place in 2004 to help the island's fishery industry, but the decision to remove the subsidy was made after a policy review last year. This subsidy has been a controversial topic of discussion over the years, with warnings from Treasury officials that the heavy fuel subsidies posed a threat to the island's financial viability. According to a government press release, the removal of these fuel levies or subsidies savings made will most likely be redirected to mitigation efforts and effects of the drought period currently affecting the island. A proposal has been put forward that perhaps savings should be redirected to hold planting stock and shoots to distribute to households once the drought phase passes. Niue police officers are receiving training to build their capacity and knowledge in terms of ethical conduct and to strengthen institutional credibility. The two-day workshop, facilitated by the New Zealand police personnel, covers a wide range of topics that will help guide police through their work within the community. We spoke to the main workshop facilitator to find out more about the importance of this workshop.
Today's workshop is about upskilling the Niue police in regards to skills in regards to ethical dilemmas and so forth, and giving them tools to deal with any ethical dilemmas that they may come across in their duties. Covering topics on making ethics real, contemporary policing, discretion, leadership, in approaching ethical dilemmas.
Sergeant Homasia says that working in small communities can often be a challenge where most people are affiliated or related in some ways that can make policing and upholding the law difficult. The sessions this week will enable officers to have additional skills and tools to deal with difficult situations and remain as objective as possible.
Ethics is important because it builds trust and confidence with the community. If we're upholding the law, then it's important that people have trust in what we do, that there's no conflicts of interest in the way we deal with our job, that it's fair, that it's lawful, that it complies to policy and so forth, and that it withstands scrutiny. I think the fact that Niue is a small island with a small population that has unique challenges in that New Zealand police may not have to deal with because it's such a small place, and because of that they are met with challenges that New Zealand police wouldn't normally face on a regular basis. So I'm thinking that this workshop will help direct them and help change conduct and behaviour that will be ethical.
The workshop concluded today, and Sergeant Homasia will depart the island tomorrow. A new $1 million project promoting sustainable management of ocean resources was officially launched yesterday afternoon. The Niue ocean-wide project, funded by Ocean 5, will be implemented over a course of 3 years in close consultation with local fishermen and women. A wide range of stakeholders were invited to the occasion at Waiolama to mark a milestone for those in the fisheries sector who will be able to assist with shaping the project components.
And then it has three main components within that. The first is to establish a marine spatial plan, which is basically like a plan of zoned uses. And so in doing that process, we want to establish what resources we have within that EEZ. So part of that's going to include quite a significant scientific survey of Beveridge Reef, possibly other seamounts that Niue has. And when we have all of that information together, we want to consult everybody who uses the sea, all the people of Niue and the government as well, and to look at are we maximising the returns of that ocean resource by using it appropriately? Are there other opportunities that we might be able to develop different aspects of Niue's ocean resource? For example, large conservation area. You might want to zone areas that whale watching can happen, areas that it may not happen, and different things like that. So through that consultation process, we just want to look at how do we maximise the use in a sustainable way. And the second component of the project is on enforcement and compliance. So how do we ensure that what we decide how we want it to be managed can actually happen? And the third component is a very important component, and that's to maximise Niue's opportunity to benefit from how this rolls out. So it will include things like ecotourism, a big focus on ecotourism, being able to market Niue internationally as a pristine ocean environment for marine-based tourism in particular, and also to help maximise the returns of fisheries for Niue, sustainable fisheries, both domestic and potentially commercial. Throughout those three areas, there are components that we want existing community groups to lead on, and existing NGOs. For example, there is a significant component in there for Omatafua's work to support what they're doing with whale watching. We also want to gather fish catch data and reef cleaning data from the people who use the reef and who catch fish as well, so that we can start building up some of that information on the trends of harvesting. And we need the community's engagement in that process, and there's funds to help gather that data, to pay people for the catch data as well. So and we're hoping to get the young kids involved as well, school kids. There's nothing like learning from a practical experience. So one of the key components of this is to engage high school kids in particular in conservation efforts, and to work out, what areas, basically what harvest rates we should be looking at, what kind of key species should we be looking at to give us an indication of the health of the reef.
Minister for Natural Resources, Honourable Billy Talangi, said that this spells exciting times, and the quick turnaround of 6 months to receive funds has helped to put plans in motion to maximise benefits. The NOW project will also be working on a public-private sector model that will require a combined commitment in order for it to succeed.
So public-private partnerships is a quite a buzzword at the moment, and it basically means that you have a partnership between the government and the private sector to achieve a common goal. And so often in the past the past models of development have either been quite strongly government or quite strongly private sector. And this kind of model brings the two parties together. In fact, there's more than two parties, it's civil society as well. And it basically means that the components of the project require the commitment and input of all those parties for it to work. And it's often difficult to get funding to support that kind of thing, because normally the government would have to bring their money to the table, the private sector and the NGOs, which is difficult, which is probably why it doesn't happen so often. But in this instance, we're really fortunate that the donor is very supportive of that. The government, too, is extremely supportive of that. And in fact, the government is putting money into this. They are going to put quite a significant part of in-kind support in particular through their staffing. And I think that will be about 260,000 over the 3-year period, so that they are also a big contributor to that project.
Coral says that the project has actually opened up an opportunity to establish a new NGO in order for Ocean 5 to channel through funds for implementation. A public consultation last Friday had a great level of interest in founding members to establish and register the new NGO, Tofia Niue, who will work in line with the objectives of this project to sustainably manage ocean resources from the reef all the way out to Niue's 200-mile exclusive economic zone. Changes in the processes for New Zealand passports will now see travel documentation valid for 10 years and expansion of services for online applications. Previously, New Zealand passport holders had to renew passports every 5 years, but now they're valid for 10 years and will mean adult passports will cost $180, whilst children $105. The change to a 10-year passport from the existing 5-year passport will give greater convenience to most adult passport holders, as they will need to renew their passports less frequently. An announcement was made on the 11th of November for the adjustments, where children's passports will also be able to be renewed online, including first-time adult applications. For many people, the online application process is convenient, and new passports approved will come into effect by the end of this year. Child passports were heavily subsidized through adult passport fees to ensure passports remain affordable for families. These changes and fees will become applicable on the 30th of November and will affect all passport applications received after that date. And those are our news stories for this evening's news bulletin. We do hope that you have an enjoyable weekend ahead, and join us again for our next news bulletin next week.